Hey there, welcome to Professor Purl, a YouTube channel about knitting. I'm Nicole and this is episode 35. Welcome to another episode where I talk about what I'm knitting, like what I finished, works in progress, all those fun things. There's a lot of new subscribers here, so if that's you, welcome. Thank you for being here. If you're an old subscriber, thank you for supporting. So because there's so many new subscribers, maybe I'll just give a little brief background, which is I'm Nicole and the channel gets its name Professor Purl because I'm a math education professor who loves being a professor. And I also love knitting. It's a way that I decompress. Yeah, like stress knit, like all those things. So that's where I get the name Professor Purl. And it's summer break now. So basically like Summer Nicole's out right now, which you'll see in Works in Progress that Summer Nicole was having a good time. Yeah, so the semester is done and it feels so good. And I just have a lot of anticipation and excitement for the summer. I know that it's where I live in the Pacific Northwest. It's technically still spring, but it's summer for me. And I'm Summer Nicole right now. So yeah, you can find me as Prof Purl on Ravelry and Instagram, and everything I'll talk about today is linked below. So thank you for being here. And we're just gonna hop right into works in progress. I do have a finished object, but I can't show it to you. It's my very first secret test knit, and it took most of my knitting space time over the last couple weeks. And it was a big joy, and I can't wait to share it with you. And I will one day, just not in this episode. So let's hop into the works in progress. Okay, I have so many works in progress that I've put them in my notebook here to keep me on track. Okay, so my very first work in progress I'm going to talk about is the outline tank that I have in this bag, and it's part of the tank top along. The hashtag is tank top along on Instagram, and there's also some Ravelry threads. I am hosting a tank top make along inspired by the desire to make a tank top. So yeah, if you are interested in doing that, it is not too late. The cast on was on May 1st, but it's running until the end of my summer, which is July 31st, because Summer Nicole turns off on July 31st and I get into like full blown teacher mode on August 1st. So yeah, May 1st till July 31st is a tank top make along. And my cast on for that was the outline tank by Jessie Maed Designs. And I'm sure you've seen it. There's thousands of projects on Instagram and Ravelry to check out. I love them so much. And I've wanted to cast one on for a long time. Oh, random needle. Okay. Let me talk about the yarn. Look at this. Okay. It's a little blown out because it's so bright and sunny here today. But it's a light blue, and in person you can see all these rainbow flecks. And this yarn is from the Arkansas Yarn Company. They have a Sock Society box, which I get every month, and it's a surprise. I don't know what's in it. And there's like little extras, like the extras for this yarn, since it has the rainbows. It had like this rainbow stitch marker and some other fun things. And these little stitch toppers were not part of that box, part of my recent box. And how cute are those butterflies, rainbow butterflies. So I'm just using all of that. This yarn though is the Yummy Plush base, and it is 85 superwash, 85% superwash merino, and 15% nylon. So I'm a super slow twisted rib knitter. Not everybody likes the look of twisted rib. Like, some people don't like the look of twisted rib. I am not one of those people. I love the look of twisted rib, and I think partly because it's so even compared to my 1x1 rib. And I love how it kind of pops. So I love the look of twisted rib. So it is worth me persevering, but like, this took me a long time. That just one little inch of knitting took me a long time. And the rest is, there's a little thing you do, which I won't give away because it's in a paid for pattern that Jessie made, like, I think invented, kind of. It's not a technique I've seen anywhere else, where there's this drop stitch that doesn't unravel, essentially. So there's a little technique that you do for that. But other than that, in the meantime, it's just stockinette knitting. And so it's like kind of like a giant sock at this point, because it's just bottom up, so it's just a big tube. And so I've knit this in kind of fun places. Like, I had end of the year meetings last week, so many meetings last week. The semester ended the week before last week, but last week, so many meetings. And so I knit this there. And then yesterday was Mother's Day here in the United States, and I love Pacific City, Oregon, and the beach. I just love it. So I brought this to the beach with me, and I did beach knit. Brought my Barley Purls bag. I haven't cleaned it or anything since the beach. I just bring this, set this on a bag, and knit right out of it. I'm kind of digressing here, but my 2 beach knitting tips are simple. Like, have a bag that you don't mind if it gets a little sand that you can brush off on it. I guess I have 3 tips. And then the second tip is no mohair. Just don't bring mohair on the beach, right? Like, I have brought mohair on the beach, but just, you can see. If it's a hot beach, maybe don't bring mohair. And then my third piece of advice is I usually have like lotions and things I use in my hands. Like, did I put it back in here? Yeah. Like, I've got this tough woolen inside this bag. I usually put up like a little tough woolens in all my bags, and when I go to the beach, I just take that out, because in the past, sometimes I haven't taken it out and maybe it's melted on the beach, or even worse, some sand gets in it, and then there's always like sand on it whenever I'm trying to like use it later. So I just take that out before I go to the beach. That's about it. Oh, funny story about knitting this. So let me know if this has happened to you. I have these very cute stitch markers in here. They're sassafras. I got them from the Rose City Yarn Crawl. They're just like this like hexagon thing. They're so cute. And I love cute knitting things like Progress Keepers, stitching, like stitch markers. And because I was knitting this at so many meetings last week, I must have had every single person that commented on the knitting didn't like comment on the like knitting, like what are you making, but wanted to know like how I'm using this in the garment design, like the stitch markers. And I had to explain stitch markers, like knitting jewelry. So I was just wondering if that's happened to you, if like your non-knitters are like so attracted to your knitting jewelry that they like don't talk about your knitting. Okay, I'm really excited about I know I've just gone on and on about the outline tank. I'm excited to finally be knitting a tank top. I am a little nervous. I don't know if I will know how to style a knit tank top. The whole reason of doing the make along was just to motivate me to knit a tank top, because I've wanted to knit a tank top for so long. But why I've been a knitter for years and years and years and have never made a tank top is because I don't know if I will wear it. Like, so if you wear your tank tops that you've knit in the summer, let me know. And if you style them, let me know how you style them. I'm just really interested in that. And I actually think, I didn't talk about what I'm wearing, but I'm wearing the souffle, the summer souffle by Laura Penrose Knits. And I feel like this was sort of like my gateway sweater into tank tops. I made this out of plant-based fibers, and it's the first time I've made a sweater out of plant-based fibers. And it's also the first time I've worn a hand knit sweater, short sleeve, like in hot weather. Like today, it is very hot here in Oregon. It's 85 degrees Fahrenheit, and I'm wearing this. Now I'm inside my air-conditioned home, but I was out and about today. I was on my porch working for a bit. I did take a walk, and I wore this, and I felt good. I felt fine. I mean, it's a little dark, but it was good. Anyway, so if you're wearing your summer tanks out and about, tell me about it. All right, my second work in progress is a test knit. Have you had this experience where you just like see a designer post something and immediately you're just like, it's checking all the boxes and you just know like you are going to make that? That is, if you've had that feeling, that is how I felt about Anna from the Bluebird box, her vest. I don't think it will forever have this name. I don't know. It's currently called the Cardigan vest. I don't know if she will rename it or what, but she's knit 2. And as soon as she knit them, I was like, I love that. And I was actually wanting a vest just like that at that time. And in one of her Instagram posts, like I think she made like a joke or a nod or maybe a statement, I don't know if it was a joke, about being inspired by like Daisy Jones and the Six, which is a book and also a like series, I think on Apple TV Plus, which I haven't read the book. I want to read the book. But when she like made the reference to Daisy Jones and the Six, I was watching that show and I loved it. Like all the tears, was very into the story. So it made me love the vest even more. So these were my swatches. I knew immediately I wanted a pink one. Spoiler, I also want another one. Like I'm not even done with the first one and I already have plans for more, like maybe immediately. So Anna's design, I don't know, she does a unique test knitting experience. It's sort of like, I don't know how to describe it. Kind of like a mystery knit along, except it's not a mystery because you know what you're making, but it's, yeah, like, I don't know how to describe it. But nonetheless, like there wasn't a needle size provided, so I did like 3 swatches to get gauge, which you should always do that anyway. Maybe not 3 swatches, but you should always swatch to get gauge. And even if she did provide needle sizes, like a designer's like what needle sizes they use may not be what you use. Okay, so about the yarn, my yarn is just, oh, okay, it's kind of a wreck here. I'm going to show you little nubbins of yarn because that's where I'm at. The yarn I'm using for this vest is really old and fairly recent. So there's just a little bit of this sparkle left. I bought this sparkle on a road trip last summer. Kyle, my husband, and Matilda, my 5-year-old, she was 4 at the time last summer, we drove from Oregon all the way to Wisconsin. That's a 28-hour drive. We split it up across many days and did lots of stops, lots of museums, lots of hiking, lots of fun eating, just lots of fun. Oh, zoos, all kinds of things. And it was a really special memory, a really fun time. And at one of the yarn stores we stopped at in Montana, my, at the time, 4-year-old, now 5-year-old, insisted on me buying this pink sparkle. I had no plans with it at the time. I thought maybe I'll put it in a sweater for her. All right, this yarn, this little nubbin here, this is Cascade 220, and I bought this yarn a long time ago. I bought this, I think, the summer of 2010 when I was engaged. My husband and I got married this summer, late summer of 2010, and the early summer I was in graduate school, just starting my PhD, and there was a yarn store near the school, and I had just finished knitting a vest, and I remember wanting to go buy yarn to make a vest. So it's kind of cool that this yarn is becoming a vest like years later. And so I bought these 3 skeins of Cascade 220. At that point in my life, I had no yarn collection. Like I didn't have yarn just like taking up space in my house. I would just buy yarn and knit something. So I bought that and had a plan to immediately knit a vest, and I didn't. And as the years have gone on and I've acquired more yarn, it gets pushed to the side, and sometimes I rehome yarn. Like I give yarn to a friend that I'm teaching to knit, or I give yarn, to Goodwill or something. But I've never rehomed this yarn, because every time I was going through my yarn, I would say, oh, this is nice wool and it's pink. And if you're new here, pink's my favorite color. If you've been here, I love pink. And so I just would always be like, I need to save it. It's really nice yarn and it's pink. I will use it. And yes, all I have to say, it feels really good to be using something I've had for a really long time. And I'm kind of like freshening it up with this like sparkle. In and of itself, these don't look like they would look that good together because they're totally two different pinks. But I think that marl look it's giving here, I like it. So it's a cool vest. All this anticipation to show you, because there's a stage in this vest where when you make it, it's not appealing looking on the needles, and it's not the design, it's just like the stage. It's like a adolescence right now where it's just not quite to the splitting for armhole. I also want to show it because I don't it's not appealing looking right now, but so I've done the right front, and there's some shaping here near the armhole, and the front chest is kind of curling in because I have an edge I need to eventually do. I'm almost done with the back portion, and then I will do the left side similar to the right side, and then I will connect it all and it'll have armholes. So it's, it's just looking a little whatever. And it's really well designed. Everything Anna does is just so well designed. As I was knitting this, and I just was I thought the construction of it was just so unique. I've knit a lot of sweaters, so for me to be the construction is so unique, that means I really think that's a compliment. The construction is super unique and obviously I can't say it's super well fitting because it's not done yet, but I can tell it's going to fit really well. Without giving away the secret sauce, I will say there's, the saddle shoulder, some hidden short rows in there that you can't see, and some increases here. So I would say I never modify anything on test knit. I do everything like you're supposed to, with one Nicole exception, and that is I always replace any kind of short row with a German short row because German short rows are better. So yeah, that's my test knit thing here. I'm really loving it. Yeah, so that yarn, if I bought it in 2010, it's at least it's almost 13 years old. That's wild. I've had yarn that long. But wow, it feels so good to get that done. All right, my last question about sort of the test knitting experience is, as I mentioned, Anna does a kind of unique way of test knitting. I think a lot of designers do host test knits in places like Discord or Slack, but Anna does hers in kind of a unique way. I've also experienced a lot of other test knitting, one's on Ravelry, one's done on Instagram, one's not done in any of those ways. And so I've been kind of playing with the idea of making a video here on YouTube where I would just talk about the different test knitting formats I've experienced, just the ways, pros and cons, maybe not pros and cons, but just affordances of the different formats, because they each have different affordances. But I just thought it might be fun if you like test knitting like me, if you're kind of a test knitting nerd. And yeah, so that's something, let me know if you'd be interested in. My third work in progress is a shawl design, my first shawl design. I am going to the Flock Fiber Festival in Seattle, Washington, the first week in August. Let me know if you're going. And Jessica from Purls and Postulates invited me to be in her booth for on Saturday for a couple hours, the time to be determined. And I'm really excited about it. And so I reached out to her and I said, wouldn't it be cool if I designed a shawl to release that day too? And that's kind of ambitious, but she said yes, and she sponsored yarn. And the yarn is so good. It's a Brain reference, which I picked. I mean, I didn't pick the Brain reference. She let me pick whatever yarn I wanted. I loved this color. And then I happened to like the reference, which is I Lobe You. That's the name of the colorway. And one of the things that I've wanted in my life for a long time is a shawl design or a shawl that is well fitting. So it's like not little, but not like a massive Stephen West blanket that you could make out of these pairings that dyers make, where it's a fingering and a mohair that coordinate like this, where it's like one fingering and one mohair, and in that kind of like little package, you could have a shawl that's like a substantial, yet not like too overwhelming. So that's kind of the thought, and I love crescent shaped shawls. I also want something that is going to be fun to knit. I think sometimes with shawls, I don't like it when I'm just like married to the pattern and like just like have to stare at the pattern all the time. So I also want it to be intuitive. Slow start to this, but I'm really excited about it. And so that's the start. This is the right side. There's this I-cord edging, and it's going to be garter. And then next, after I get to a certain amount of stitches that I've calculated, math, I want to do like a garter chevron situation. We'll see what that looks like. So that's, and then I want it to be like garter, chevron, and then maybe I'm thinking repeat this situation where it's like plain garter and then garter, chevron. And I'm loving the look of this and the experience. So fun. I'm on a kind of tight timeline to do this by Flock Fiber Festival. I think it's probably unlikely to finish this end of May. I mean, unless I exclusively worked on this, but as you can see, we were really excited. Summer Nicole was very excited, and there's, a test knit and a make along going on. So I don't see myself necessarily finishing this by end of May. Maybe, but early June is probably a likely end date, which would then give from like mid-June through July to test knit. So my question for YouTube viewers is it enough time to test knit in 4 to 5 weeks for a shawl? In general, when I've done test knitting for my socks, I try to give very generous amounts of time because I don't want test knitting to be stressful. On the other hand, I really want to have this in August for Flock Fiber. So I'd love your feedback on 4 to 5 weeks of test knitting for a shawl. I'd love to hear about that. My last work in progress that I've worked on since we last recorded, but it wasn't my last episode, is my belt bag by the Teddy belt bag by a Knitwear by Joan pattern. That's it. I've worked on it just slightly since we last recorded, and I'll talk about what the holdup is. Okay, so my belt bag has 3 pieces knit. Since we last recorded, I did the bottom piece, which is this double knitting. Look how thick that is. I have my Wednesday Progress Keeper from Charmed and Dangerous that I'm obsessed with. So this is the bottom of the belt bag. And then these are the 2 pieces of the belt bag. And the purl side is actually the right side, so then the knit side will be on the inside. And the designer, so ingenious, there's this like flap that you put the zipper in. And the thought being, when you sew this together, when you now open it up, it's got a very cohesive look, like where the purl's on the outside and on the inside. So that's cool. And then the zipper goes inside. And then this very sturdy bottom gets sewn like this. Look at that. So cool. And the yarn I used is Summer Camp Fibers. Maybe the kind of main color I'm using is Hot Mess Express, maybe just Hot Mess. Maybe I'm making up Hot Mess Express. Anyway, it's boot clay held double. I've had to rip this out because the first time I did it, I just held the boot clay. But the pattern is designed for an Aran weight boot clay. So if you're using a DK boot clay that a lot of dyers have out there, you just need to hold that double. Held it with a plain worsted. Held it with a sparkle. That's a lot going on, and it's gorgeous, the fabric. I'm just really excited about it. So like, why is it not done? Let me know if this happens to you, but this is where I'm at. This hurdle of having to sew these pieces together has just made me want to knit other things. It's especially, I was so busy with work and just so kind of like stressed out. It was just so easy to grab something easy, like my outline tape, even my like cardigan vest, even my design is easier just to pick up at this point. To sit down and sew this, I have to be intentional. Like, I am going to sew this, and that hurdle has slowed me down, which is unfortunate because this is so cool and I want the product. Check out this zipper. Look at this. Look at this with the rose gold and the cream. Like, look at that. Like, I'm imagining myself wearing this, using this, and I need it. I love it. I love it. Doesn't seem like I love it because I'm not done, but it's just that hurdle. I just need to do it. I just need to try it. I'm intimidated about the sewing. To be honest, that's it. I'm just intimidated. So maybe this will be accountability for me. What I'd like to do, look at all those ends. All this is intimidating to me, but I think what I need to do is just use the plain worsted, not the boot clay, not the sparkle, just the worsted, and use that just to sew it. And I think I just need to be patient and gentle with myself, that though it's small, it's still a big project, and it's okay to just take it a little, we'll see, maybe I'll set a little goal just to have it sewn by the next time I show you. Because I think if I say to myself, I want to set a goal to have it done, I'll feel intimidated to not do it. So if you've experienced that, those things, those little hurdles, let me know. Is this just me? The simplest thing, I've had a sweater over there with a button band for a couple years now. Like, the whole sweater's knit. I just need to do a button band. Like, that is not even that much work, but it's just like a hurdle, and I won't do it. Welcome to the acquisition part of the episode. I have a couple fun acquisitions. The first acquisition is a gift from my mom. I won an award at work. It was called the Faculty Achievement Award for Research and Scholarship. And it's like part of being a professor. We need to do research and scholarship. But I got an award at work, which was really nice and really sweet. Somebody nominated me. And my mom gave me a gift to celebrate it. And so this is Purls and Postulates, I've just mentioned earlier. And Jessica has all these like STEM, science, technology, engineering, math related yarns. And this one is a math theme. And since I do math education research, that's what my mom got me. And the color is called Easy as Pie. And it's so fun. I think it's like the perfect sock set, and so it makes sense that I will make socks likely out of it. But if you've made something else that's not like a Musselburgh hat, but maybe something else with a sock set, I would love to know what that is and tell me about it, because it is special. So I think it would be fun to have it be something that's not on my feet, though I think it would be really fun in socks too. So I'm open to thinking about what I will do with this one day. As I've mentioned, I get the Sock Yarn Society box, and this was my last month's color. The colorway is called You Make My Heart Flutter. and there's like a lot of white space, and then on top of the white space there's just like a rainbow of colors, like yellows, greens, some purples and pinks, and then there's the purple and some oranges. So it's just like a rainbow, and I love it so much. I have a lot of yarn from the Sock Society boxes that I haven't knit yet. And a lot of the dye styles, not all, but a lot of the dye styles for this box include a lot of white space. And the pro to that is that, like, they're very cohesive together, like some of these yarns. So I have done two things. One is I have switched my Sock Yarn Society box to be a sparkle base. So like my next one, if I've done my online kind of modifications like correctly, my next one I get should be sparkle, which is exciting. But the second thing that I've done is start to think about what I'm going to do with these. I think it's like 5 skeins I have at least that go together. Might be 5 or 6. They go together but are different. What I'd like to do with them. And I have a few thoughts. And one of my thoughts is to knit a giant Stephen West shawl out of them, like the Eyelet Burst shawl. And I was thinking, I have so many yarns that, like, from this Sock Society box that, like, have these colors in them. So I was thinking I could start with this at the base and then, like, fade in the other colors and pick the ones that have, like, the white space and a color to blend like that. I was thinking that could be really fun. Yeah, so that's one thought I have for that. And like, when am I going to do these things? I don't know. I'm just going to go with the flow with it. And as you can see from all my works in progress, I'm enjoying those. I'm going to focus my energy on those this month, and we'll see where other things take me. Welcome to the Professor's Purls segment of the episode. In this portion of the episode, I like to talk about the connections I make between my professor life and my knitting life. And so you could probably see in my works in progress that there was a lot of new cast-ons and a lot of like enthusiasm towards some new things. And I think a lot of that happened for a couple reasons. But one of the reasons I think was just anticipation for things. And so you want to talk a little bit about anticipation. So the end of the semester of this academic year was very difficult for me. And it wasn't difficult because of my classes. My classes were amazing. My students were amazing. I loved teaching. I loved my students. I loved the other professors I worked with. They were amazing to work with. I think the semester was hard because if you know anything about academia, like it can be hard, like just the structure of academia and like some of the things that happen within that sort of landscape politically can be challenging at times. And so I just had a hard, stressful, not for my students, not for my colleagues, end of semester. And so because it was very stressful for me, I was anticipating summer break so much. And it was filling me with joy, like counting down to summer break. And it was filling me with joy thinking about summer Nicole and all of the things that I get to do in the summer, like spend extra time with my 5-year-old Matilda, spend extra time with Kyle, like make time for more personal things, like maybe more reading or more walking or more exercising and gardening and also more knitting. And I think I was so stressed yet embracing that anticipation and excitement about anticipation that when summer Nicole was starting to emerge early May, I really cast on to things. I mean, I just like embraced all the anticipation, like I'm going to host a make along and do it. And I'm going to do a test knit and do it. And I'm going to do a new design. And like, I'm going to do a really fun, quirky knit. Like I just was embracing it. I think sometimes people will say things like, live in the present, don't worry about the future, don't focus on the future, like try and live in the present. And that's true, but sometimes anticipation and planning for things like that can give you joy in the present. And so I think like one of the things I just love about the school year is that there's always anticipation for something. So just as I was looking forward to summer break, and I'm really thankful to be on it now, just as I was looking forward to that, I also will look forward in July, like end of July, I will be looking forward to the school year starting in late August. I will get very excited about that. And so there's just always something, like even within the school year, maybe it's a conference I'm looking forward to, or it's a concert at school, or, you know, there's something always to look forward to with school. And I just love that part of my profession. And I also love that about knitting. There's always something fun to look forward to with your knitting. And there's always something to anticipate for your knitting. And sometimes I take it a little too far. But like, it's okay. Like, because mainly it was just giving me joy when I needed it the most. Okay, I'm gonna have to take a break from my knitting. This sparkle stuff, like amazing, but for me, it gets knotted on things a lot, and I think it's just a user error and not, it happened with my fanny pack too. There's just something about what me and this sparkle, like we get into situations where it's just like super knotted, and so I'm going to unfortunately have to pause on this knitting while like recording so I can finish chatting with you. All right, so we're to the personal section of the episode. So there will be no more knitting from this point forward. If you enjoyed any of the knitting content, please consider liking and subscribing. And it's just non-knitting content from this point forward. So as I've mentioned earlier, the end of the semester was really stressful. So there was not a lot of recreational reading happening in my life. So I don't have any finished books to show, but I am recreational reading now. So one thing that I kind of dug out is this book, Once Upon a December. I started reading this in December. I had purchased it at Barnes & Noble's, and I started reading it on the plane to go home to family. So we live in Oregon, and I was with my family, Kyle and Matilda, flying back to Illinois to visit family, and I wanted a book to read. And so this is a rom-com, and the setting's in Milwaukee. It's Once Upon a December. The artwork has pink in it, and I really loved it. And I read it while in Illinois. Obviously, when you're visiting family, there's not a lot of time to be reading. And so I didn't finish the book, but I got a big chunk of it read. And so the problem with physical books for me instead of my Kindle or an audiobook is that it can be hard to make space for it. So it basically kind of got put to the side, and I was mostly reading on my Kindle through the semester, nearly exclusively. And so now that the semester is done, and yesterday was Mother's Day, we went to the beach. I brought this to the beach, and I have less than 100 pages left now, and I love it. Somebody on Instagram messaged that they love the juxtaposition of like being on a hot beach and a sunny beach, and yes, the Oregon coast can be warm and sunny, and like reading a Christmas, December, winter book. And I love this book so much, even though it's really been kind of dragged out through reading it in December and now finishing it up now here in May. But I really love it, and when I am stressed or need to de-stress, reading a rom-com, like the Hallmark movie version of a book, gives me joy. Like, it just fills me. And I know that that's not like deep. but it's also like, I just love it. And that's like what you should do when you like to read. But what I didn't know was like winter holiday rom-coms is like something I really like. So reading this makes me wonder, is this like a genre, like a rom-com around like winter holidays? If it is, let me know. I just really like it. The other thing I'm reading now is the last book of the A Court of Thorns and Roses series. I think it's A Court of Silver Flames. I'm reading that on my Kindle. I don't love it at all. But I want to read the whole series. I'm reading every single one of Sarah J. Maas's series, and I've finished none of the series. I've started every single one of her series, but I haven't finished any of them. So I'm going to finish one of her series. I'm going to finish this book, A Court of Silver Flames, I think. Why do I not like this last book? Well, Nesta, who's one of the characters, she shows up she's in the first book, if you've started reading that series, and she kind of annoys me. So that's why I don't like the book. And it's also very spicy with somebody I don't like. So, yeah. For work, I'm reading a book called The Book of Joy by the Dalai Lama and Desmond Tutu. And that book is due on May 26th. And so I need to finish reading that soon. I have a physical copy of that book too. I didn't bring it over here. Yeah, so that's what I'm reading, but I haven't finished reading anything in a long time. So, goodness, what's happened since I last recorded? I can't even hardly remember. I don't even remember really. I usually share all these things that my family does. We've been doing fun things. I think though what's like standing out in my mind are like kind of like the ordinary mundane things. Like we have been spending so much time in our yard and in our driveway, which is like so interesting. My grandma, and grandpa on my dad's side, they loved to like sit in their driveway in the shade. And I feel like I'm channeling them. Like we've been just like hanging out in my driveway, not really doing anything. And it's been so fun. Like Matilda's like drawn hopscotch over and over, lots of bubbles, lots of watering our flowers. We've done some yard work. We've put some like cedar chips down. We need to put more down. Planted some pumpkins. I don't know. We just like very ordinary things, and it's just been so good. And I like really look forward to that. I had a phone call, so I needed to answer it. So I'm back. Okay. So things are going on. We were doing lots of fun things, but I think one of the things that took up a lot of time is just the end of the semester. Because at the end of the semester, I have lots of grading to do, lots of like review sessions, lots of like final questions for students, like not just review sessions, but just like sometimes my students like to talk to me about personal things, and there's just a lot going on in a semester. This is the end of my 8th year as a professor, and what was kind of cool is that we had a graduation commencement like we always do, and it was outside like it always is, and it was so nice this year. I feel like I've experienced some non-rain years, but I mean, I'm in Oregon, so pretty much it's like always rainy, and we're lucky if it's not rainy on graduation, but it's like outside usually, and there's like tents and things. But this year it was like really, really nice and sunny. And then I did the graduation, came home, and like there was lots of bike riding and things like this, and like just hanging out at home. And yeah, I mean, certainly we've done fun things for me to share, but that's probably the most fun, is just being at home. Yesterday was Mother's Day, and You know, I know that Mother's Day can be very hard for people, like people who have like challenging relationships with their mothers, and people who don't have mothers, people who want to be a mother, people who don't want to be a mother. There can be like all these like things that make Mother's Day really hard. And so that was on my mind yesterday. But it was also nice to celebrate it too. And like, not like celebrate me, but just like celebrate like me and Matilda together. And like that I feel like, you know, she's like my best friend, and I feel so like blessed and lucky to have her. And so it was nice to kind of commemorate that yesterday. But no, as I'm sharing about my Mother's Day, like that is in my mind that it's a hard day for a lot of people. It's kind of this thing that's both like beautiful and complicated, because even like motherhood, while it's like the best thing I've ever done, it's also really hard, right? Like, so it's like beautiful and complicated all at the same time. And yeah, so yesterday we went to Pacific City, which is like, I know that the Oregon coast is big and there's so many beautiful places to go, like Cannon Beach and Astoria and Lincoln City, so many places, Seaside, so many places. But there's just something about Pacific City that I just really love. There's just, I don't know, I almost feel like it's sunnier there. That's not true. It's just, I just love Pacific City. So we went to Pacific City, and it was a magical day yesterday. It was just so sunny and warm. We actually swam in the ocean. Like we were out there, we were splashing around, and found some really cool shells. Like that's how I feel every time I go to Pacific City. I'm just like, I just feel like I have a magical experience there. And, you know, maybe it's not Pacific City for you. Maybe it's somewhere else. Like, I think we all need those places that make us feel like we're somewhere special. Because we are. Everywhere we are is special. So that's sort of what's going on. I have a vacation coming up here with my family soon. We are planning a vacation to Disney World. I love going to Disney World, and I only plan on bringing one knitting project. I think the reality that I even knit that one knitting project is small, because I just don't knit when I'm at Disney World. I just don't. I have the time of my life, and I eat all the snacks, and I go swimming at the resort, and I go on the rides, and I have just a great time, but I just don't knit. And then when I get back to the hotel, I'm sometimes like just tired and I don't knit. So it feels weird for me to travel somewhere without knitting. So I'm going to bring one knitting project. What I'm struggling with is like, I don't know what knitting project I should bring with me. I want to bring something really easy. So that feels like maybe the outline tank. But maybe I'll be far enough along that it won't be a giant tube. So then I wonder, I should bring a sock or something with me, which would be then adding like a fourth work in progress into this big pile of works in progress I have going on. So if you have some suggestions about what knitting I should bring with me, or if you are a vacation knitter, or if, dare I say it, a Disney knitter, tell me about it. Anyway, I hope you have a really great rest of your week. I hope you're having fun knitting. I'd love to hear about it. And thank you so much for watching. Bye.